What's up everyone, we're back at it again. My name is Brad and welcome back to my channel. Today what I want to do is I want to give you a week 10 update of what all of my ficuses look like post giving it the big chop. So let's get into it. Week 10 update of giving my ficuses the big chop. Let's start off with some good news. We've finally have gotten some rain. So rain is great because with rain comes humidity, and these trees love humidity. Also, it helps with keeping the soil watered as opposed to me having to go inside and bring in bottles or even using the watering hose. Week 10 starting off amazing. So with this week 10 update, as I said, we got some rain, so the leaves are a little bit damp, but that's okay because it's rainwater and not water from a tap. With this rain, we also see that we're starting to get some growth again. Now before, with all of that sun and drought-like conditions, it was really a challenge for these trees to start pushing out growth. They almost went into a state of dormancy, which you see a lot with outdoor plants, especially ones that flower. If it is too hot and they don't have enough moisture, or they're not able to uptake moisture as quickly as they're losing moisture, they go into this state of dormancy in order to conserve water. But because we got that rain and because we have that increased humidity, you see that with my Ficus Burgundy, I have some growth on this particular branch. And then swinging around, we also see that I have some additional growth that has really started to push out. So this is my Ficus elastica Burgundy. Beautiful, beautiful tree. The trunk is looking nice and healthy. Now, I did check to see whether or not it was okay to remove my loose stake, and it's not. Because if you recall, the reason why I have this staked in the first place is because I'm trying to maintain a very vertical-like trunk. And it was, without the stake, the trunk was actually leaning or curving a little bit over to the right. And as you can see with this loose stake, if I were to basically push the stake over to the right, my branch goes over to the right, or my trunk goes over to the right. And I want it to be a little bit more vertical. So we'll keep this on here for a couple of more weeks, and hopefully by then we'll have a nice vertical, healthy trunk. Beautiful. Switching over to this side of things, we have the Ficus Robusta. So I've said this before, the leaves on these Ficus Robusta, they are way more green than the Ficus Burgundy. The Burgundy has burgundy leaves, the Robusta has more green leaves. But the Robusta, in my opinion, branches more readily than the Elastica. Now with this, similar to the Burgundy, it went into, again, a state of dormancy. But now with that rain that came, oh my gosh, I'm happy that that rain came. We have increased humidity that's hitting these leaves. We have some nice rainwater that helped to water this tree. And we noticed that I'm having some growth points on these branches. So for instance, this branch here is pushing out some growth. Let's see, swinging around. Let's see if I can find, oh, here we go. This particular branch as well. And then even if you look at this leaf, you'll see that this leaf is smaller than you would expect. And part of that has to do with that state of dormancy that I was talking about. The trees were trying to conserve water and really weren't focused on pushing out new growth. Instead, what they were focused on was trying not to pretty much die because they didn't have enough moisture to survive. So Ficus elastica Robusta, again, looking great. Still hoping to get more vertical growth. I do see I have this outward growth, but vertical growth would be good here. I'm gonna keep these branches, these lower branches for now, just to see what the shape looks like. At the end of the growing season, if I don't like it, I potentially will trim it off, but we'll see. What do you think? Should I keep it as it is, or should I start shaping up the Robusta to really get the shape that I'm looking for now? Let me know in the comment section. Now moving back a little bit, we are looking at the Ficus elastica taniki. So this is the taniki and not the ruby. The taniki doesn't have the very reddish leaves The taniki has more of the cream-like color. Now, you'll notice that we have some reddish or some pinkish margins on the leaf, and that really is attributed to the fact that this is getting so much sun. Typically, if this is kept indoors, you will just be left with the creamy color. Now, the creamy color will become more prominent as the leaves mature. Now, I am also excited about this taniki because, if you recall, a couple of weeks ago I was mentioning how small the leaves were, and you can actually see some of the sizes that I'm talking about. I mean, these leaves were pretty small, but as the branches have matured, the leaves have become larger, which is absolutely excellent because with the larger leaves, you can truly see how this taniki can really show off the color pattern and variegation that it has. And this is one of the reasons why the Ficus elastic taniki is one of my favorite plants, just because of that variegated look, that variegated pattern. Now, the Burgundy is also gorgeous, and so is the Robusta, but the taniki just has that special characteristic to it that I think a lot of people find unique and interesting. My Ficus audres are also looking really good. I like the height that the Ficus audres put on. This, just like with all of my other ficuses, was experiencing that dormancy where the apical growth pretty much just remained stagnant. You can see here that it is still fairly small here, and I'm hoping that within this next week, I'm hoping that we continue to get some rain and sun, and that this bud will basically swell and produce more apical growth. I know it will. It's just a matter of time. My branches are also looking nice and healthy. As you can see here, I have a branch. I actually have several branches, so that's really nice. I like the shape that this Ficus audre is putting on right now. I don't think I want to do any kind of trimming at all. The canopy is nice and high, and especially when this is inside, it's going to have that nice, full, lush look. If you like videos like this and want to see more videos about houseplant tips and tricks, please be sure to subscribe to my channel. It's totally free and would mean a lot. Now let's get back to the week 10 update. Swinging over to the second Ficus audre, so Ficus audre number 2, you can see that I have gotten some growth on this particular tree as well. Now, this leaf hasn't hardened off yet, which is why it's a bit flimsy, but this leaf is also brand new, and it really is putting on a lot of growth. So this branch is to the left, it's really taking off. I mean, the leaf is huge, and I'm hoping that I continue to get more branch development lower in the stem, which I think I will, because I see some buds that are trying to activate, and I do think in a couple of weeks I will see those buds really take off. Now, I'm hoping that they'll take off before we reach the end of the growing season. I think they will, but it's just something to be mindful of when you're growing these trees, that you do have a finite time period within a particular season to really push out growth. If you miss that time period, you basically have to wait until next year to maximize the growth potential of your plants, especially if you put them outdoors. Now, this Ficus audre is doing a really good job catching up to Ficus audre number 1. Doesn't look as full, but from a height perspective, it's doing a decent job. I also moved the loose stake up a little bit because while the bottom was giving me that nice vertical growth that I wanted, the top was still giving me a slight lean over to the right, or really not even a lean, but a bend. So I moved the tie up higher on the tree, so it's right here, right above, right below this node. So that's going to help give it that nice vertical growth. Loosely staked, so it still has the ability to move, and it still will move, barely tucking, and it's just giving me all kinds of movement. Again, that movement is important because the only way to get a nice thick trunk is to give your tree stimulation. If your tree doesn't get stimulation, what you'll end up with is a leggy stem that can't really support the top growth of your plant, and your plant will suffer. So keep that in mind. If your plant is indoors, be sure to shake it. If it's outdoors, let Mother Nature do its thing. You will end up with a nice, hefty trunk. I mean, like, for instance, like, look at the size of this trunk. It's nice and thick. Here are the twin Fiddle Leaf Figs. We have Fiddle Leaf Fig, I think I called this one Fiddle Leaf Fig number 1 and this one Fiddle Leaf Fig number 2. Let's start off with Fiddle Leaf Fig number 1. You can see that on the right hand side here, I have actually gotten this bud to finally push out some growth, so that's very exciting. It's always exciting when you get new leaves, especially when your plants have been kind of just sitting there for weeks without pushing out new growth despite fertilizing. So this is really exciting. This is probably going to be a 2-leaf set. I don't see any more growth along this stem or this branch, but I'm hoping that it will come. And I'm also waiting for this stem to thicken up. It will, or this branch to thicken up. I know that it will. It's just a matter of patience, because right now it's a bit flimsy, but the wind is working on it, so it's going to be fine. And then if we take a peek down here, we do see that this bud is starting to swell. And then let's see if I see any other kind of swelling. I don't think I see any other swelling on this particular Fiddle Leaf Fig, but again, it's still exciting when it does happen. So 2 leaves are coming there. Now swinging over to Fiddle Leaf Fig number 2, we can see that the leaves are nice and upright. Part of the reason why it's upright is because it's finally cooled down a little bit since that dry spell, which is good. And it doesn't look like, oh, actually I might have some swelling right here. Let me take a look at this sheath. No swelling right here yet, but it will come. It's just all about patience. No swelling down here. Yep, no swelling down there. So Fiddle Leaf Fig number 2, right now I think it's just focused on trying to recover from the drought, but it's still looking beautiful. It has a nice shape to it, a nice trunk to it. It's looking good. Both of the Fiddle Leaf Figs are. Moving down to my Ficus Moonshine. Ficus Moonshine has definitely put on some additional growth since the last week's update, but the growth that it's put on is all happening underneath this sheath right here. This will be the second new leaf since I took ownership of this particular Ficus Moonshine, but it's looking good. I'm hoping by the end of this growing season it's going to be, I don't know, it's about 8 inches now. I'm hoping that it's going to be, yeah, it's about 8 inches now. I'm hoping that it's going to be about 2 feet by the end of this growing season. The leaves are very beautiful, very unique. And it does look like, I had asked the question before, because when these new leaves unfurl, they have this pinkish undertone. And I was curious if that pinkish undertone was a byproduct of it being out in the sun, and if that pinkish undertone would maintain, or if that undertone would become more of this green cream-like color. And it does seem like that this pink undertone, so this is the new leaf, it does seem like that pink undertone does fade. So I do imagine that this leaf is eventually going to look more like this leaf in color, which I'm absolutely okay with. Either one would have been fine with me, because I just really like the variegated pattern of this. But this moonshine is looking absolutely gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. The stem is starting to thicken up and actually become a true bona fide trunk, which is great. And all in all, I'm so happy that I got this plant added to my collection. The Ficus altissima yellow gem is just absolutely loving being outside. It previously was inside, where, you know, due to just doing some home renovations, it struggled a little bit. And I really wanted to give it an extra boost. So in order to give it that extra boost, I basically cut every single branch bare. So this branch had no leaves on it, this branch had no leaves on it, this branch had no leaves on it. And in a matter of a couple of weeks, it has just absolutely pushed out growth like no other. This probably has growing the fastest out of any of my ficuses that I have outside right now. And that is even with all of the branching that it has had to basically maintain. I mean, this particular branch has, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 branches off of it. This branch has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 branches off of it. This particular branch has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 branches off of it. So it's really had to maintain a lot of growth, and being outside has really helped it a lot. The color pattern is absolutely beautiful. Something that you should consider when you're adding plants to your collection, especially when you are wanting something that looks a bit unique and just isn't plain green. Think about getting some type of variegated, easy to care for plant like these Ficus altissima's yellow gem, or even like the Ficus elastica taniki. I'm really pleased with the amount of growth that my ficuses have done from week 9 to week 10. I think a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that we're starting to get out of this drought, and with the help of the rain, it really has allowed the ficuses to enjoy the extra humidity that this growing season has provided. They were a bit stagnant between week 8 and week 9, and it really was because there just really wasn't enough humidity to make the plants feel comfortable pushing out that growth. So I'm hoping that between week 10 and week 11, we can keep up with having a little bit of rain and a little bit of sun, so we can continue to see how tall these plants can get within one growing season. Thank you so much for watching. Again, my name is Brad, and if you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. I'll see you next week when I give you the week 11 update of what all of my ficuses look like post Give Me Get the Big Chop.